So how many days before leaving office did Tony Blair claim £7,000 for a roof repair? The answer was only 2 days.
Two days. You're watching The Right Stuff with Gail Porter, Steve First, and our special guest, Chris Watches, Spring Watches, Chris Packham.
Still to come. I'm looking in my nest, you know. There's no poo on it.
Oh, it seems like your hand's dirty. Still to come, do families need Father's Day? I'm not being overly cynical here, but isn't it a pointless exercise designed to make card and gift manufacturers rich? Salt in the wounds of the 1 in 4 kids who never even hear from their dads? 0207 173 5555 is the number to dial if you're for or against Father's Day. First, though, your thoughts on these. And just so you know, this isn't all MPs' expenses or even 1 year's worth of expenses. This is about 1/8 of Gordon Brown's personal expenses. OK, about 1 year's worth. The official list of MPs' expenses has been published by the government yesterday, and as you can see, there's not a lot there apart from black lumps and white. You could be forgiven for thinking the Daily Telegraph got the expenses ball rolling 6 weeks ago after paying, what they said, like 300 grand to a deep throat type source, but it wasn't. The battle to find out how MPs have been spending our money began 5 years ago when Freedom of Information campaigner Heather Brooke filed a request to find out. Endlessly knocked back, the Sunday Telegraph got involved in 2005. The Commons twice rejecting requests to show us their exes. Then in May, 2 years ago, a Tory MP, David McLean, he tried unsuccessfully to exempt Parliament from the Freedom of Information Act. Class. Though it was, to be fair, partly to protect the personal details of constituents who've written to their MPs. Now, last year, MPs were told receipts would have to be published, which led to us hearing about the John Lewis list, and then senior MPs blew another £150,000 of our money, I'm sure it's on expenses somewhere, on a legal battle to keep the receipts secret, but they lost in court, because judges ordered that not just the receipts should be made public, but also relevant addresses. How did Parliament react to this? By overturning the High Court's decision. Makes you feel proud to live in a democracy, doesn't it? And then the Daily Telegraph, that's when the Daily Telegraph got involved. And you have to say it, if it wasn't for that paper, we wouldn't know that Jackie Smith's husband pleasured himself at our expense. We wouldn't know about Douglas Hogg's moat, Sir Peter Vigour's duck house, Hazel Blear's house flipping, or Lembit Opic's wig. Actually, that was the one bit I could have probably done without. Revelations that have led to, what, 12 ministers leaving office, not to mention the Speaker, Michael Martin, 14 shamed MPs vowing to stand down at the next election, whenever that may be. So what do you make of this, then? This official government list of MPs' expenses, almost everything blacked out, censored, as if we're living in some Stalinist repressive regime. Is this what Gordon Brown meant when he promised us transparency? I know, Steve, you've been going through this today. You like what you see?
Well, no, and I can't imagine anybody would. I mean, I agree with you. I think what Will Lewis has done at the Telegraph is both a public service and as a journalist, an extraordinary thing as well.
Which the Sun turned down. So the story goes.
Well, but I understand that you want to protect the identity for security reasons, i.e. addresses at the top of forms. I don't think anyone really expected this kind of blackwash, as it looks like.
I'm sure if they can black all that out, they could black out an address.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not exactly a kind of... It doesn't...
What is it that worries you? Because, I mean... the bit that worries me is if this is what they're going to do for expenses, then what happens to the Iraq inquiry? I mean, can you believe a word that anybody tells you?
Well, look,
I mean, we were told about 45 minutes, weapons of mass destruction, they didn't turn up.
But, you know, I think the public have already voted, or by not voting, have already shown their, I suppose, their respect for the process and for politicians generally. It's dwindling fast, and I think...
See, I don't understand how 70% of the country don't want to vote when you see stuff like this.
This is exactly it. I think it's like we've been battered now for the last few months with one thing after another, and unfortunately everything, you know, especially with something like the Iraq inquiry, is that people are just... There's we have no belief left. We have no kind of respect. Our reserves are empty.
I'm going to make Gail, I'm going to give you a difficult job and say, play devil's advocate. Tell me the plus side about this.
I can't tell you any plus side. Well, I know they paid back something like £470 £1,000 has been paid back so
far.
Yeah.
Hasn't it? But the fact that having to pay back, it just doesn't make any sense. I can't play devil's advocate because I completely agree with you and Steve. I just think it's disgusting. And with the Iraq inquiry, you just don't trust anybody at all to find out any sort of truth. You don't know what anyone's doing. And then when we do ask for Gordon Brown's transparency, you get that. So
a 4-year battle, in and out of court.
why are we battling? We should know all about these things. We shouldn't have to fight to find out where all this money's going.
Chris?
I think that if you accept a position in public life, in any form, you have to play by certain rules. And if you can't play by those rules, then you're going to get found out in the modern world, and then it will terminate it. And what's been terminated here are not their careers.
Their rules, though, weren't they? Always say, you know, we didn't break the rules. They wrote their own rules. And I've said frequently on the show that the accepted practice was, because they hadn't taken pay rises, that they could make it up with expenses to submit everything, and the fees office, operating under Michael Martin, would sort through what was accepted and what was not. So moat cleaning, yes. Duck house, no.
Yeah. OK, well, maybe the rules have been adhered to, but there's no question there's the moral bankruptcy is at stake here. And that's what really gets me. I just think if you accept a position like this, you play by the rules if they're fair, but you're going to be found out. That's the way the world is at the moment. So you either agree to stick to that, whether it's in your private life or your professional life, or you don't. And there must be benefits for being MPs. Presumably there are 1 or 2 of them that still do it because they have a vocational interest in public service. And maybe there are the vast majority of others are career MPs. I mean, it's certainly not something they do for the money. And I have heard it mooted that, you know, perhaps we'd have a different quality of MP if they were paid more money. I mean, at the end of the day, if you were interested in, if you really want to, you know, to change the world, then yes, you might think about becoming MP. But if you really wanted to, you know, to make a lot of money, it's not a business that you would go into.
Well, I said a little while ago that I thought we should stop calling them MPs, Member of Parliament, which sounds like member of a club, and they should start to be called RPs, representatives of the people. And if the average yearly wage in this country is a dismal 24.5 grand a year, and MPs are already earning more than 3 times that, if they're supposed to represent us, either they need to work out how they can pay other people a hell of a lot more to bring it up, and then they can have their pay rise, or they have to stick with what they've got and stop thinking that just because they're in Parliament, they're entitled to some super wage. There's lots of teachers, nurses out there that do vital, essential jobs that get paid diddly for it.
But do remember that the halcyon days when many of our MPs, and I have to say socialist ones too, came from moneyed backgrounds, and they genuinely did it because they wanted to provide a decent public service, and many of them were issue-led, and it ranged from employment across to dealing with issues for the poor at the time and things like this, and they had no interest in money because basically they were wealthy to start with.
No, it's a very good point.
I want to state categorically, I'm not providing any excuses for these people whatsoever, and I don't think they should be overtly paid vast sums of money.
But there's a case for it.
Well, I think that basically there's no case for saying we needed to boost our income through cheating.
OK.
There's no case for that whatsoever.
OK, enough from us. Let's throw it open to you. What do you make of this pile of, well, rubbish would be probably the best word to describe it. MP's expenses, the official document. Kirsty.
We have Debbie on line 3.
Morning, Debbie.
Good morning.
Do you feel enlightened now?
Just very angry still, actually. I agree with you totally with what you're saying. I just feel here that we are all being treated with utter contempt. Nothing's changing, despite all of these promises. Nothing's changed in years. And people are so angry. I really think it's time that perhaps, you know, everyone said, OK, enough's enough. Let's just for one day go out on the streets, not to riot or anything like that.
Walk around quietly, perhaps, like they do in Iran, with dignity.
Just to say, this is enough because we are being treated as idiots. You know, tax evasion is fraud. There is no argument as far as I'm concerned. If I were to do that, I'd be in prison. And everyone said this a million times, I know. But, you know, we have a situation where these people want a DNA database of everybody in the country, and yet they think they're not answerable. It's wrong, and we have to deal with it.
Well said on the DNA database thing as well. I mean, the resistance they put up to stopping us finding this stuff out, and the eagerness with which they want to take information from us. Extraordinary. Thank you for the call. Let's have another.
On line 2 we have Valerie.
Hi, Valerie, good morning.
Hello.
Hi there.
I'm ringing, because the Western Morning News, which is my local paper from Cornwall, has printed, in fact, all the expenses of the West Country MPs.
Right.
And my MP, Julia Goldsworthy, who is from Camborne, Falmouth,
Yeah.
has only been there for 3 years, and it is put down in the paper today, whether it's right, I presume it is, she spent in 3 years £14,000 on food. Now, how a single woman spends £14,000 in food in 3 years, I don't know.
She only eats swan. Very expensive.
She had spent £89 on a dustbin.
£89?
She had cleaning bills of £4,364, and she had a television that she bought for £999. Well, whether she is ever in the House of Commons, she is, because I see her occasionally. She must spend an awful lot of time looking at the television, I would have thought. Anyway, there are other things as well, but I mustn't keep you because I'm no doubt...
I love the fact you're laughing through this, Valerie. I want to give you a big hug down the airways for at least seeing the lighter side. We've got hundreds of calls on it, and everyone's saying the same thing. We kind of touched on it yesterday. I just wanted to show you, what we've seen, and that's all there is to say about it, really, isn't it?
But one of the viewers said we should take to the streets. We did that over Iraq, wasn't it? The biggest rally ever.
Let's get more of us out. More of us out. The revolution. Revolution. Yeah, easy.
It was ignored.
Get your own.
It was ignored.
OK, after the break, do families need Father's Day? The Times has been calling for Father's Day to be axed because it's a pointless exercise designed to enrich card manufacturers. What do you say to that? 0207 173 5555 is the number to dial. My case would be, what about those without fathers? How do they feel when everywhere they go there's a poster reminding you not to forget your dear old dad, who in my case is no longer with me? Do families need Father's Day? You tell me. In 3.
When was Father's Day invented? 1710, 1810 or 1910? Find out after the ads.